Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is October 28th. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. Thank you. And will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President DeCruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso.
Here.
Councilman Daly.
Here.
4 members present. Councilman McAtee is absent.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from work session October 15th and regular session October 15th, and also the closed executive session on October 15th.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries as well. Item 6 is licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a victualling license to Cousins R.I. Bakery, doing business as Cousins Bakery, 100 Fortin Road. Application by Luann Cox. Please come up to the podium here. And hi there. Welcome. Just state your name for the record.
Luann Cox.
Thank you. And tell us about your business.
Well, I'm hoping to open a from-scratch bakery. There isn't anything like that up at the area. Make cakes and pastries, pies. Not sandwiches, but just a bakery.
That sounds good.
Any specialties or?
Well, I can do a little gluten-free, a little vegan on request.
Okay.
But, I like sugar, white sugar, and butter.
Me too.
Have you run a retail bakery before?
No, I have worked at Sweet Cakes in a bakery in New London for quite a while when I was there. So, long-time dream.
What are your hours?
Probably early 7 to early afternoon. I don't know if I can open back up again later. It seems like the students are up there at a certain time and then they're gone, and then at night it picks up again. So it's just me, so I don't know how much. That's a lot for one.
Yeah, you probably don't want to be open till like 4 o'clock at night. We've seen something like that. Any other questions? Very good. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6A as presented.
Second.
So moved.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Good luck.
You're welcome.
I'll be in for some butter
And sugar.
and sugar.
Yes, that sounds delicious. And that brings us very quickly to item 7, which is communications. 7B is an email dated October 15th, 2019 from George W. Watson III of Robinson & Cole, LLP, providing a copy of Energy Storage Resources response to the Energy Facility Siting Board's first set of record requests with regard to the proposed location of the 180 megawatt Narragansett Narragansett Energy Storage System in the town of South Kingstown. Rob, do you want to give folks a little bit of a feel for this? This is sort of just a technical response to questions from the EFSB.
Yeah, this is a new technology and a new kind of project. The applicant here has petitioned the PUC to ask the PUC to say that the PUC does not have jurisdiction over this matter. There was a hearing held last month, and at that hearing, the PUC asked the applicant to provide further answer to questions that were raised during the course of that hearing. This is the response to that request. So the applicant is simply providing the PUC and anyone who has expressed an interest, the town of South Kingstown being a party that has expressed interest, with the answers to the questions that were posed during the hearing. This does not affect the town's authorities or rights, as I mentioned to the council at the last meeting. This ultimately will, we've decided at the staff level, require a text amendment if it's going to be permitted under our zoning regulations, because our zoning regulation also does not have a clear reference to battery storage facilities, which means ultimately the council will have the last say on whether or not this is a permissible use under our zoning ordinance.
Now, if the EFSB determines that it doesn't have jurisdiction over this matter, does that mean that we would be the only?
At that point, we would be the only citing authority. There would also be, obviously, state jurisdiction with regard to pollution, runoff, those sorts of issues. But in terms of whether the site is an appropriate site, the zoning would then be the only remaining regulatory structure or regulatory environment.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion on 7B?
Make a motion that we place item 7B on file.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. 7C is a resolution adopted October 15th, 2019 by the South Kingstown School Committee to recognize and proclaim what is now Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day in the school district. We received that, placed on file. Unfortunately, the link to it on the agenda does not work, so we will continue this to the next meeting when the public has an ability to see it and review it. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we continue item 7C to our next meeting.
Second.
So moved. All in favor say aye.
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 7D is a resolution adopted October 8th, 2019 by the Exeter West Greenwich Regional School District School Committee seeking amendment of Rhode Island General Laws 16-38-6A to address funding of school-sponsored field trips. And we received that one and placed it on file. Do we want to do anything further with it?
I'll make a motion that we place item 7D on file.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries as well. 7E is an email dated October 23rd, 2019 from Pam Wu on behalf of the Small Business Saturday Coalition and Women Impacting Public Policy, requesting a proclamation promoting Small Business Saturday 2019 in South Kingstown. I think we did this last year, if I remember correctly. What do we want to do this year?
So I'll make a motion that we, item 7E, we would direct staff to formulate a proclamation proclaiming Small Business Saturday 2019 in South Kingstown.
Second.
So moved. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
7F.
Aye, sorry.
Oh, that's unanimous then. 7F. And G are emails from Doral Beasley concerning the school Stage 1 and Stage 2 updated demographic study and the school facilities master plan.
So I'll make a motion that we place items 7F and G on file.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. And that motion carries as well. And that brings us to 8, comments from interested citizens. There must be more important things happening tonight. Any comments from the council? Right, we're cruising through this. Town manager's report.
Gene, can I get control of the screen? Thank you.
I never watched myself.
Not too long a report tonight, but just to bring the council and the public up to speed on a couple of items. The land swap arrangement with the hospital is at the point where, when last we discussed this, the hospital had done an appraisal of the property we hope to receive in exchange for the property down on Town Farm. That appraisal has not been approved for release to the public by the property owner. And so we're sort of at a funny place right now, because the next step and the last step for us before we can submit a formal application to the National Park Service is a public hearing to hear from the public about whether or not the swap would be a reasonable swap. We believe that we need to be able to provide the public with the value of the land that we're proposing to give up and the value of the land that we're proposing to receive. It's not enough for us to simply say we're giving up 8 acres in exchange for 32. We need to be able to say what the dollar value is. That's a requirement of the National Park Service in their evaluation, and I think it's a reasonable thing for the public to expect that we're going to be able to tell them that as well. Kim O'Connell, who has been shepherding this project over at the hospital, has left the hospital's employment, so I'm going to have to touch base with the hospital this week and try to figure out how we can get to a disclosure of that number, because we're on hold until we can get to the public hearing.
So, Rob, it's the owner of the property and not the hospital not releasing that information?
Well, the hospital has done the hospital at this point doesn't have a purchase and sales agreement. They don't have an option on the land. They've got a concept that they've been working with the property owner on. So in my view, what they really need is to get control over the property in a meaningful way, which would give them the right to release the value. The property owner isn't legally bound by the appraisal. They allowed it in order to, let the project go ahead, but we need to get to a next step. And in my view, it probably entails the hospital actually getting into a contract with that owner. There was a question about whether a new set of appraisal standards adopted by the Department of Interior would put another wrench in the works. Mike's office has looked at that and has determined that that is not an impediment. It's not going to affect this transaction, because we're not dealing with a purchase or sale for monetary value, and the new regulation only would affect a transaction dealing with money exchange at this point forward. So we should not have that problem. The Matunic Seawall funding question is perpetual. We did meet with the folks from the Infrastructure Bank last week, and they had some thoughts on where we might be able to seek some funding, so we're running those to ground. But as of right now, we still do not have the funding, approximately $3 million for that project, and we continue to look. Town right-of-way trees is a growing issue. We've had a number of situations recently where trees that were planted as part of a design for neighborhoods have become a problem 15, 20 years later. It's always an issue when roots start pushing up concrete. We actually had an interesting problem emerge recently, though, in a neighborhood that had beechwood tulip trees, Beechwood Drive's tulip trees, were attracting large numbers of bees. So the residents were beginning to find that they couldn't really spend time on their front lawns because the bees were there. And the trees also were dripping a great deal of sap onto the cars that were parked under the trees. So the sap is destroying the paint on the cars and is attracting bees, which is undermining folks' ability to enjoy their property. I put it up here because I think it's important for us to remember that the consequences of decisions like, let's put a tree and it's nice, can come back to get you on the backside. And this is one of those cases. We've got to think about the species, we've got to think about the long-term consequences. The number one problem with sidewalks is roots. Tree roots kill sidewalks, and sidewalks that are uneven injure people. So while trees are great, we need to be very careful about making sure that we're putting the right species in the right place, and that when we can find an alternative that doesn't involve some long-term liability, we should. The Joint Procurement Office is up and running. We've had a number of conversations over the course of the last couple of weeks, and we're beginning to focus on sort of a training regimen for folks at the school department and here at Town Hall to make sure that we're all sort of speaking the same language and learning the same things about good contracting practice going forward. Marina Park leases, we have two of the three leases to agreements in principle. We will be bringing those to the council probably at the next meeting. I don't want to get too much into the details tonight, but we'll have a chance to go over them when they come before the council at the next meeting. The third lease, which is a lease with Rams Point Marina, is still being negotiated. You'll remember that Rams Point and Stone Cove are both in their extensions. They have 4 years before those extensions run. These were attempts to get negotiated leases out of the way so that the owners of the businesses could go back out and find capital for improvements to their facilities. It's hard to get folks to put money into a short-term lease, and with only 4 years left, it makes it difficult to finance improvements. So we're in a good place with regard to Stone Cove. We're in a good place with regard to Point Judith Yacht Club, and we're in active discussions with the folks over at Rams Point. I have no reason to believe we won't end up in a good place there. The library reports that their Champlain grant is complete, and their Champlain grant application for next year is complete, and that they must complete their work for the last grant that they applied for. That really requires that the new phone system be installed in all three branches. They're working with IT, and if we can keep to the schedule, we will be fine. That's been a challenging project, however. The Matunic seawall hearing is scheduled for November 12th, which is our next meeting. So we're going to have to deal with some logistics on that, but the hearing will be up in Providence, and we're incurring some expenses around that because we're going to have to advertise that fact in the Providence Journal. On the changes and successes front, I have talked to the council president about this, and I'll let the council and the public know at this point. For about a year now, we've been meeting as a development team, folks here in Town Hall who have discrete responsibility for oversight of development projects, have been meeting on a regular basis to talk about challenges in the development process. So John, for example, John Schock is responsible for the roadway, right-of-way issues. He's responsible for the water issues. He's responsible for wastewater treatment issues. The building inspector's office is, of course, responsible for the construction oversight, et cetera. We've been meeting to sort of try to make sure that as projects are going along, if we see a challenge, if we see an issue, we're talking to each other about it. We've talked about it, and we've decided we're going to start doing the same thing up front, rather than waiting for the applicant to come in and have an application and then start talking to ourselves once the project is underway. We're now going to be meeting with commercial developers, commercial development teams that want to come talk to us before they put a shovel in the ground, Sooner in the process is better. This is not, of course, mandatory, but if folks want to talk to all of the regulatory agencies at once, we've got a forum for doing that. And we've already had a couple of developers say that they would like to come talk to each of the town regulatory bodies in a single meeting, so as to avoid the problems that come from not having everybody in the room at the same time. On that, I think, be it on the narrative, just a couple of interesting statistical representations. Threats of origin, these are threats to our computer system. On the left, over the course of a month. This is where folks send us emails that could be phishing emails. These are things where these are points on the map where a threat to the server may have originated. We're little old South Kingstown, but we get a lot of attention from all over the place. On the right here is the kinds of calls that we've been putting in. This is help desk calls that the IT folks put in. 28% are hardware support. 17% are the software support, and then you can see the various other telephone, website failures, etc. And these are emails that have come into South Kingstown. This is since 2014. This is our total inbound traffic since the beginning of the system, since the server first went online. 4 million emails, and about 300,000 blocked emails. That's inbound. That's not traffic between South Kingstown IP addresses or southkingstown.com email addresses. That's not internal traffic. And that's the report.
Any questions for Rob? All right, solicitor's report. All right, thanks. I don't think so. All right, we get to number 11. That's appointments. I believe we have a couple.
I'll make a resolution to appoint Matthew Bradywood to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire September 2022.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes, and then
And another resolution to appoint Barry Ennis to the Waterfront Advisory Commission for a term to expire June 2022.
Second.
very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Just a comment that we're not appointing on the SMART committee until we've finished all the interviews.
Thank you, Joe. And that brings us to item 12, new business. 12A is a resolution supporting utilization of the small area fair market rent for Section 8 voucher program operated by the South Kingstown Housing Authority, and as described in a memo from the principal planner to the town manager dated October 10th, 2019. Unfortunately, this is another item where we don't have an active link to the resolution. So without that, I would request a motion to continue this to the next agenda.
Make a motion that we continue item 12A to the next agenda.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And number 12B is a resolution authorizing an award to Packard Consulting of Woodbine, Maryland, for implementation services for the configuration and migration to the Microsoft Exchange Government Cloud environment in an amount not to exceed $16,400, including a $2,000 contingency described in a memo from the IT director to the town manager, October 22nd, 2019.
Can we combine 12B and C?
I do not oppose that.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda items 12B and C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Would you like to do something similar for the vision? So 12F and G are resolutions authorizing contracts with Vision Government Solutions Incorporated of Hudson, Massachusetts. This is to upgrade the town's VGSI computer-assisted mass appraisal software, and similarly to upgrade the town's tax administration, collection, and utility billing software in an amount not to exceed $102,375 with funding from the Technology Improvement Fund.
Motion to approve item 12, F and G.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries as well. And then again, we have a series of 3 resolutions, all related to uniforms. Item H is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Ben's Uniforms of Amesbury, Mass. For the purchase of Blower base layer uniform shirts per the unit pricing as submitted by bid on October 17th, 2019. Resolution authorizing an award of bid to Stillman Uniforms for the purchase of point blank soft body armor per the unit pricing as submitted on October 17th, 2019. And a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Rhode Island Uniform and Supply for the purchase of SPIWAC police duty uniforms per the unit price as submitted by bid on October 17th. Chief.
Good evening, Chief Joe Jaber, South Kingstown Police. What's happened here is that the company that makes our custom-made uniforms is no longer exists. So we have to revert to buying off the rack. So we have to start this transition now. It's going to take a while, but in the meantime, we're going to get as much as we can out of our old, I don't want to say old, some of the officers have brand-new uniforms. So this is going to be a transition into the new style uniforms. I don't have a picture, but they're a darker color with blue piping, and I think they look pretty good. In the meantime, we have been converting to the load-bearing vests, which you probably see most of the officers wearing now. And so one of the resolutions here is to continue the purchase of those vests. We have probably 50% of our men are wearing the load-bearing vests now, which take a lot of the weight off the lower back, which has worked out well. I don't think we've had any problems with injury since we've been using load-bearing vests. And if you see on TV, just about every department is wearing those, has those now. They're very practical, very much more comfortable. So the third the other resolution, I'm not sure, I think that was the first one. That's just for the shirts that go underneath the load-bearing vest. The uniform on the sleeves and on the collar, and then underneath they have material that breathes because the vests, make the officers sweat a little bit, but they're still better than wearing them underneath the uniforms. So that's basically what we have to do. We have to switch to the new uniforms because we no longer have a custom-made company doing our uniforms, and it should, in the long run, be a little less expensive.
All right. Thank you. Do I hear a motion on these?
Motion approving agenda items 12H, I, and J.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Chief.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. Do I hear a
Mr.
motion?
President, if I may, just one more item that I forgot in the manager's report. We still have an open question with regard to how we're going to deal with cable broadcast. The question has been, do we go to rebroadcasting of the disc on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or do we stick with broadcasting on Monday nights? The live streaming costs us the live broadcasting costs us $10,000 a year. We believe that if we take those $10,000 and put them to producing discs for other committees, we can actually get more public disclosure, more transparency across the full range of activities. We do not have a resolution for the council this meeting. It's my intention to work with the folks at the cable company and see if we can get a resolution on for the next agenda. But it is an issue still. That contract is going to expire at the end of this month.
That's very soon.
Yes.
So what happens with our next meeting?
Yeah, we don't know yet. I need to talk to the folks at the cable company and see where we are. We have sort of worked through a number of the scenarios. The cable that provides our signal is a direct link between this room and the cable office in Westerly. The cable company is moving from its office in Westerly to a different location elsewhere in Westerly. So there's going to be some movement here anyway. The question is whether or not, it makes sense for us to be extending that line, whether they'd extend that line, whether we just are better off broadcasting from a CD, not live. We're not getting live calls. I don't know whether this is the best way for us to be packaging the whole presentation of town hall business.
Well, thank you for that update. We'll wait to hear from you at the next meeting.
Good.
I think the IT director has something to add.
Good.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that if we commit to it, it's a 3-year minimum commitment. So it's a $30,000 contract over the 3 years. They wanted 5. We negotiated down with, the contract would be with Cox Communications. So we negotiated originally from a 5 to a 3. So if we commit, it is a 3-year term at $30,000.
And I will further note, we did ask the public at the last meeting, and we've tried to get word out to folks. We haven't heard anyone say, I rely on the Monday night broadcast. But as is the case with these things, I'm sure that if it's not available, we will hear from folks that they rely on it. Nobody's contemplating ending the live streaming via the internet, and nobody's contemplating not broadcasting on cable. It's just a question of whether it's going to be Monday night or some other night.
All right. Thank you very much. If we want to talk about this more, we'll have to add an agenda item, but I think we can forgo that and perhaps have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. The time is 8:02. That's the end of the meeting.
What, the gavel? Scared?